Geological Faculty of Moscow State University presents. Film was produced in the Department for Historical and Regional Geology, Geological Faculty. Our Maastrichtian-Danian boundary in Crimea, with participation of Professor Dmitry Naidin and Alexander Alexeyev. Our field party moves to the Maastrichtian-Danian boundary section in Bilbek River Valley. Our party consists from the Russian and Western scientists. Mountain Crimea consists from the Triassic and Jurassic rocks in the south and Cretaceous and Paleogene in the north. One of the most complete Maastrichtian-Danian boundary section is in Bilbek River Valley. Bilbek Valley cuts the Upper Campanian and Paleocene deposits. The most complete section consists from the Maastrichtian sandy limestones and basalt-Danian sandy limestones. Above this, six sequence of limestones, Danian and Montian age. In scarp of valley you can see the two levels. Low one consists from Maastrichtian deposits with sharp slope, and up one from the Danian limestones. At the contact between Maastrichtian and Danian boundary you can see that the last Maastrichtian deposits are more deep water than more earlier. It is sandy marls with a lot of belemnite rostra. This boundary coincides with the narrow hollow between the two vertical scarps of the valley. Other place where it's possible to see Maastrichtian-Danian boundary is the Kacha River basin, near to the very famous Bakhchisarai town. Beskosh mountains with very well exposed slopes permit us to study Maastrichtian and Danian deposits. The low part of slope consists of the white uppermost Campanian limestones, chalky limestones, and middle part consists from the siltic marls of Maastrichtian. And top of mountain composed from the Danian and Montian very hard limestones. The boundary between Maastrichtian and Danian, it's better to see near to the Beskosh mountain in vicinity of Staroselye village. Upper part of Maastrichtian contains numerous hard ground horizons, and the boundary between Maastrichtian and Danian is a very, very good hard ground. The position of top of hard ground shown by Professor Naidin. It is the top of hard ground. You can see the hard limestones, and you can see that the surface of hard ground is irregular with deep burrows. basal Danian strata are not so hard, and they are contain sometimes belemnite rostra, which can be revoked from more ancient Maastrichtian deposits. Very often at the base of Danian to see the rich accumulation of bivalve shells, mainly oysters, of different size. Small one and bigger. The gap between Maastrichtian is very evident in this section. Also, revoked fragments of belemnite rostra occur together with small shells of pectinids, which are also may be revoked. It's possible to study contact zone between Maastrichtian and Danian along the slope in many 100 meters. In this locality, it's very clear to study burrowing system in the top Maastrichtian hang ground, filled with glauconitic sandstone of basalt Danian. The depths of burrows may reach up to 1 meters and diameter up to 10 centimeters of individual burrows. Next interesting area where it's possible to see Maastrichtian-Danian boundary is central Crimea in vicinity of Belogorsk city. Very famous mountain named Akkaya. It is almost completely vertical scarp which consists from the Maastrichtian marls with numerous incipient hang grounds. But the completeness of Maastrichtian and Danian deposits here is not so high as in southwestern Crimea. The lower part of scarp consists of Maastrichtian, and the top of mountain capped by the lower Eocene nummulitic limestones rich in sandy material. And only in few places it possible to see the Danian sandstones and sandy limestones. Third area where it's possible to study this boundary is the eastern Crimea. Here the succession is completely different from the southwestern and central Crimea, because Cretaceous and Paleogene rock are more deep water, slope deposits or basin deposits. Our field party study Maastrichtian deposits in vicinity of Koktebel near to Feodosia, on the slope of Clementif mountain. Here the Maastrichtian marls overlies the Albian clays. Maastrichtian siltic marls has thickness about 80 meters and did not contain macrofossils, but rich assemblage of planktonic foraminifera. Upper part of Maastrichtia represented here by the sandstone unit. Lower part of this unit is an alteration between alteration of marls, siltic marls and sandstones, and upper part is mainly sandstones. Shallowing up of the section here is very similar to the shallowing, which is possible to see in Belbek River Valley and in Kacha River Valley. But in this exposure, the contact between Maastrichtian and Danian covered by the talus. It is the alternation of sandstones and marls in topmost part of Maastrichtian. You can see the Baracol depression, which filled up with low Cretaceous clay and Caradoc Middle Jurassic clay.
Donnez-moi.
Vous avez le choix. Encore.
Bon, ça va.
Ouais, mais ça, il ne faut pas entre-temps le photographier.
Merci beaucoup. Oh, c'est très bon. Quand t'es dehors. Magnifique. Bon.
Mais attention, il est devenu mou. À cause du soleil, il est un petit peu mou.
Oui, c'est ça. Et moi aussi.
À cause du soleil.
I want to put a piece of camembert in my anorak pocket on the way back to Denmark. Found
Our field trip finished. We can conclude that in Crimea, Maastrichtian and Danian boundary is a gap boundary with hiatus, but in several places in the end of Maastrichtian very clear shallowing event occurred. Cycles in Cenomanian-Tyronian sediments of Crimea. Crimea is one of the classic areas where it's possible to study cyclicity in late Cretaceous sediments. And one of most input in this it was done by Professor Naidin. The southwestern Crimea consists of three chains of mountains. Southern one, highest, and the second one is more not so high. The very famous section of late Cenomanian sediments with rhythms is the southern slope of Silbukhra mountain. Here the cyclic sequence has the thickness about 15 meters. The thickness of individual rhythms is about 30, 60 up to 80 centimeters. The main part of elementary cycle composed from the white limestone, and between limestones more thin gray marls and clayish limestones occur. One pair of white limestones and gray marls composed one cycle. The origin of this cyclicity may be related to the Milankovitch orbital forcing. The content of carbonate change from the white limestones to the gray marls, decrease from the limestones to the marls. very clear. Changes of the productivity in the basin related to the Milankovitch cycles may explain the alternation of more and less carbonate layers in the section. Some changes in isotopic composition of carbon and oxygen support idea about the change of productivity as one of the primary factors of regions such kind cyclicity. Geological students camp in Crimea. Every year, hundreds of students, Geological faculty of Moscow State University, spend in Crimea study the field geology. Every morning, students preparing to the field trips. The head of practice, Professor Nikishin, explained the scientific purposes and teaches, gives to students the last words, explain what they need to do in the field trip. Student party moves to the exposure. Students study rocks and fossils which can occur in rocks. And artificial and natural caves with Paleolithic artifacts, the valley structure and character of deposits, quaternary and more ancient. Students studied the modern geological processes. One of interesting site for excursion is the Great Canyon. It's a very deep valley in Upper Jurassic limestones. Students describe exposures and discuss the origin of relief forms. The bottom of Great Canyon is a small river with accumulation of poorly rounded limestone pebbles. Sometimes bottom consists from Upper Jurassic hard limestones with deep cuttings and hollows, which was produced by the moving pebbles. The field camp of Moscow University is in vicinity of Bakhchisarai town, about 30 kilometers from Simferopol, the center of Crimean Peninsula, in the area of second chain of mountain Crimea. Here in the very small area, it's possible to see Jurassic folded flysch deposits and Cretaceous, Paleogene, monocline, terrigenous and carbonate deposits. The field camp of Geological faculty was established in 1957 on the slope of Silbukhra mountain. Now this place covered by a lot of trees. Between them the special houses, the hotel, dining room for the students and teachers, buffet. It is the building where the student prepare to the field trip and working with maps and collections after the excursions. They are spent a lot of time with the materials. Main aim of the field practice is mapping, geological mapping of this area. Every room contains a special place for the stone collections, for the lithological samples and for fossils. Special building is museum building. One of laboratory in this building is remote sensing laboratory, which has a lot of technique for the different kind of remote sensing. But most important is aerophoto materials. Students used it for the mapping. On the second floor is the Geological Museum. The exhibition consists from the petrographic and lithological collection, and from paleontological one. Good samples show the volcanic rocks of different ages, mainly Jurassic, from the regional practice. But one of most important part of exhibition is the paleontological collection. Students identify the fossils by themselves using this exhibition. You can see the Barremian ammonites and belemnites. Echinoids, the same age, which occurs in vicinity of field camp. Aptian clays are very rich in belemnite rostra. Upper Albian sandstones contains a lot of bivalves, echinoids, and more rare ammonites. Cenomanian marls and limestones rich in ammonites and more rare belemnites. Upper Turonian and Canyashan strata are rich in inoceramides. And Maastrichtian marls contains very different assemblage of fossils: ammonites, bivalves, echinoids, gastropod, and giant oysters. Danian deposits and Montian, Lower Paleocene deposits mainly contain gastropods and bivalves. Some of them reach very big dimension. Upper Paleocene-Tanetian, Mars, very rich in gastropods and bivalves, which are very similar to the northern Western Europe one. Lower Eocene, Ypresian clays, rich in bivalves and nomolites. In museum it's possible to see the samples which represent the context between Maastrichtian-Danian, Tanetian and Lower Eocene with very good hard grounds. The library of museum has the special room for the students and a lot of books and the copy of papers which are devoted to geology of Crimean Peninsula. Special department of museum devoted to the archaeology and quaternary geology. Here students can to study literature and data about the quaternary geology, geomorphology, and to see the ancient antiques and Middle Age ceramics, artifacts, and late Paleolithic artifacts from the caves which are produced ancient men from the chert. The students live in the field camp and special houses. Field camp has all what you need for the scientific studies and field practice for students. We invite all who are interested in Crimean geology, scientists, teachers and students to visit our field camp.